Naming a brand. Brands could be named by their founders, or they should be named about their founders. Explanatory, expressive or invented, allegorical, symbolic, or acronym. Here's some examples of various different naming conventions for brands. First of all, brands could be named after their founders. For instance, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, right? The name's Ben & Jerry's. Mercedes-Benz is the two people's last names who founded it. You just have to be careful with this because depending on people's names, if they're harder to pronounce or they're really long in spelling, that could deter it from being named after the founder unless it was somehow kind of concisely rewritten or so. You don't usually want to have a first and last name of a person because that's usually more of a person than a company. So you can use just the first names, just the last names. You can hyphenate. You can do the and like they did here. You could just do one last name, things like that. The goal, of course, is just to keep it concise and not too wordy. Naming a brand that's more explanatory, right? Something that's named pretty clear as to what it is. For instance, My Pillow. Okay, well, we know it's a pillow, and then we know once you buy it, it's yours. That makes it My Pillow. Fairly simple and straightforward name. We also have Toys R Us, right? They know that that's a toy store. All they have is toys in it. So those are more explanatory names. We saw that even back in the slides with Dunkin' Donuts and LifeLock. They're pretty explanatory. You can also have more expressive or invented type of names. For instance, Nike, right? Well, what is a Nike? We don't know. We think maybe it was a last name. Could be, but maybe not. Maybe it's just kind of a made-up word. Same with Google. There wasn't a clear definition as to what it was, I don't think, before. But now there definitely is, and it's an inventive name that is stuck with a company. That's kind of like the definition. Apple, well, even though that's, an actual piece of fruit and a word that's been around for a long time, it's still expressive in the sense that it is a computer company, right? As opposed to being an Apple store or so. So expressive and inventive names are a good way of going out of naming a business. However, again, it's like walking a fine line. How expressive do you want to be? And is that message going to be unclear as to what you do, and therefore not be as attractive to your target audience? Naming a brand, we have allegorical or symbolic. So Sirius satellite radio, more of an allegoric kind of symbolic type of radio. Sirius, I think, might be a star or something in the solar system. So therefore, it kind of represents maybe that this new type of radio is bigger than the Earth, right? Or you're able to get it throughout the whole world as opposed to just in a little geographic type of area. The next one we have is puma. We know that word exists, and it is an animal, and we see that animal right there. However, it's kind of symbolic of the shoes that they make. It's a shoe company, of course, and and it's more of an athletic kind of maybe soccer shoe company. So that kind of product has to do with speed, right? They want people to be able to be comfortable and be able to run fast in them. So naming them is a symbolic kind of way of naming them after an animal that's fast. So we have the acronym next. Now acronyms can also go back to being the founders' names. If there's like 4 founders of a company, you can't put all their names as the company, right? That's just way too long. So sometimes they just put the acronyms, the first letter of their last name, all together, and that equals what the company's called. Maybe that didn't happen in this particular examples here, but we have the IBM, which stands for 3 longer words that wouldn't be probably, so concise or easy for people to remember, but they can easily remember IBM. BMW is another one, especially by putting something on a car. Car logos have to be really simple, and they're being put on as like a hood ornament in a sense too. So you can't spell out names really long. I mean, it would be hard for people to read, especially as people drive past and things like that. So you want to have acronyms that have a really simple symbol and really thick text and easy to read. KFC, at one point they just did Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? They used to spell that out in their logo. I remember back in the 80s or so, but I think it was like in the 90s, maybe later 90s, they started to just use the acronym because, again, it's simpler, it's easier to remember, things like that. Same with HP, Hewlett Packard. Again, that could, I guess it's still called Hewlett Packard, but they just use the HP as the logo. LG and then Citi. So those are some examples. You could probably, think of plenty other ones. So naming a brand, effective names. You want it to be distinction, memorable, purposeful, extendable, long-lasting, and or legally owned. So distinction, Subway, it's distinctive from other competition. It's also memorable because Subway is also related to the Subway systems that we know, but also sub sandwiches. It's the way to the subs. Purposeful, extendable, I don't know about that one. Long-lasting, definitely. And also it's legally owned. That's another thing too, is these have to be copyrighted so that you legally own it and nobody else can take that away from you. Designing a logo. A logo is a unique identifying symbol or word mark. It is also called a brand mark, a mark, identifier, logo type, logo mark, or trademark. All those kind of terms are synonymous with what a logo is. A logo represents and embodies everything a brand or company signifies. So even though they're simple, like we looked at these logos, it's not so simple. I mean, you have to make some good decisions to ensure that that logo is a good representation of that company. So we have different types of logos. Logos can take the form of a word mark, a letter mark, a symbol mark, and a combination mark. Those are all the main 4 categories of the different types of logos. So in our next section here, we're going to go through the different types of logos.